Strong numbers, strong forecast. What are your headline takeaways?
Yeah, Emily, great to be with you. Nvidia clearly is playing a really important role in cloud computing and AI gaming, and all those things you just listed. I think the challenge for investors at this point is that the multiple is still pretty high. It's trading at 48 times next year's earnings, and the expected earnings growth for the next 3 years is only around 23, 25%. So it's looking a little expensive just as a stock at this point. They also do face some headwinds. I think investors are really counting on the ARM deal going through, and there's a lot of reasons to question the likelihood of that, starting with the fact that ARM provides the blueprints for so many chips around the economy, around the world, particularly though chips blueprints that are being used by a lot of Nvidia customers like Google, like Microsoft, like Facebook, and Apple. And so if Nvidia gets control of ARM, a lot of those companies are going to start to worry that they may not get those blueprints in a timely fashion, and really could curtail competition, particularly in those high-end chips where some of their customers are developing and have developed competing chips for the space in AI and other advanced applications. So I think there's a lot of expectations built into Nvidia right now that should make investors pretty cautious. Plus, you also have the cryptocurrency mining, where there's been a big change in the technology in Ethereum validation that takes away a lot of the demand for the mining activity that has sustained some of the demand for those Nvidia gaming chips.
That's actually part of what we discussed with the inventor of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, on Studio 1.0, which is airing tonight. JoAnne, we're going to get a preview of that later this hour. But what should or could we expect Nvidia's role in crypto mining, or the lack thereof, to be?
Yeah, so the challenge right in crypto mining is that it's been to date very, very expensive, as everyone has heard. The energy requirements of small countries. And that has to change in order for crypto to continue to be used, and to be used more often for more frequent, more rapid transactions. So we know the technology has to improve, and Ethereum has made those changes. It's now about to be implemented, and that really is going to reduce the demand for those miners and therefore for those graphics chips. It's not going to be so computationally intensive to do the validation, and so that that is something that, and I think that's why Nvidia has been really de-emphasizing, right, and trying to make its chips less appealing for mining so it comes out of people's expectations. And that could be one reason why the expected growth in earnings is moving downwards from what they just recently experienced to the 23, 25% range. And again, when you look at the multiple on the stock, that just should give investors pause about continuing to own it.
All right, well, we got to talk about ARM. It is taking a long time from the outside, and then we heard it from Jensen Huang today. He still expects the deal to go through, but it's taking longer than they expected. We know not everyone else in the industry is on board with this. Do you think that's problematic?
I really do. I think the Googles, Microsofts, Facebooks of the world have to be putting up a big fight against this, putting forward very strong arguments that you don't want one company, one producer of chips, to control the development of blueprints that so many other companies use to develop their own chips. It's really, I think, very anti-competitive if a company like Nvidia were to gain control of that. Obviously, you can never tell how these evaluations will go, but when you have so many countries that need to get on board, it just seems like it's going to be pretty challenging for this deal to get through.
So if it doesn't happen, how bad is that for Nvidia?
Yeah, hard to tell how much of that is in the current stock price. Obviously, the price has come up a lot, since that deal proposal was announced. I'm not going to try to make a guess on how much downside there is in Nvidia from here, but I think it would take the shares down.
Okay, so what are your biggest concerns for the current quarter? Obviously, we're still talking about the chip shortage. Could be to the end of the year for some kinds of chips, to the end of next year for other kinds of chips. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah. No, I think the chip shortage is going to run well into 2022, and that's going to affect the entire industry. So on the one hand, that does constrain how much they can grow and how much they can sell, right, depending on capacity. On the other hand, it does stretch out this period of time when chip growth and profit growth will run ahead of normal. And so I know that, the semis have really flattened out over the last few months, but I think this creates some really good opportunities. We like Qualcomm here, we like Qorvo, we like Broadcom. There are a lot of places where investors can see that there's some very attractive valuations, and that shortage, I do think, is going to stretch to the end of 2022 at least, and that creates just a longer runway for earnings growth to be running ahead of normal. So I think the cycle is just going to elongate because of the shortages.